Hi everyone, and welcome to Next Level Refs. I'm introing as Greenie has forgotten how to turn his microphone back on. Over to you, Greenie.
How good. What a great start. No, good evening, everyone, and welcome. Very special edition of Next Level Refs tonight. We are really thrilled to have you join us for what promises to be a very inspiring and insightful session. I'm joined tonight by my fellow introductory assistant, Beathy, and also Benny. Welcome, gents. Unfortunately, one of our Next Level Refs founders and co-contributors, Dello, he is out of the starting lineup this week. He's apparently sustained a bit of an injury after attempting Beathy's referee ball practical exercise last week. So, but look, don't worry too much. I'm sure he'll be back next week. Obviously, subject to a rigorous fitness test that we'll put him through. So, get well, Dello. Tonight, however, it is an absolute honour to welcome our very first special guest speaker, someone who truly embodies excellence, resilience, and dedication in the world of refereeing. Their refereeing journey is nothing short of inspiring. Like many of us, they started at the grassroots level, officiating local matches and honing those foundational skills that would soon propel them to the highest levels of officiating. Through their hard work, discipline, and an unwavering passion for the game, they have become a highly respected figure in refereeing circles, not only here in Australia, but overseas as well. So a very special welcome to Rebecca Durcau.
Yes, and we are absolutely pumped to have Beck on with us tonight. And as Greenie alluded to, she has an exceptional career. We're very lucky to have her with us. I'll run through some stats on the board there, but it's been, as Greenie mentioned, really inspiring watching Beck progress over the years from the local levels in Brisbane through to the A-League Women's and beyond. Beck's stats are really impressive reading. She holds the record for the number of A-League Women's matches, currently at 119. She's officiated 3 A-League Women's Grand Finals as a referee and another 3 as an additional assistant referee, just to go with the 3 that she whistled. In AFC, Beck is an elite referee. She's refereed on the AFC Women's Champions League, as well as in the Japanese Women's National League, which is pretty awesome. On the FIFA panel, Beck joined the FIFA ranks in 2017, has spent plenty of time abroad, officiating numerous women's international friendly matches, as well as different tournaments with AFC. We're pumped to have Beck on with us to share her experience, particularly around her journey from grassroots to the top. I think that's what we're all here to hear about with Next Level Refs. I've personally had the privilege, and so has Greenie, watching and training with Beck over the years, which we'll touch on during the session. But Beck is a true professional, and I can't wait for us to hear more about her journey to the top. Over to Benny to kick us off with our first lot of Q&A.
Awesome. Well, look, welcome back, and certainly welcome to Beck. She's just coming on there. She's been in our waiting room, so she heard all that. Yeah, we want to welcome you as our inaugural guest. So thanks very much for joining us, Beck. And look, probably the best place to start is right at the beginning. I guess what was your two-part question? What was your earliest memory of refereeing, and kind of what drew you to it in the first place?
Yeah, and also just on that intro, thank you for that. I'm very honoured to be here, and I'll definitely have to send that through to my parents. Yeah, so how did I start? I started when I was 17, so I was in grade 12 at the time, and I had a school friend that was refereeing, and she was telling me how good it was. And back in those days, we used to get cash in hand, so that was quite a big selling point. And I remember I wasn't playing anymore, and I thought, I'm going to give this refereeing a crack. And I still remember being at the ground telling my team, like, the next season I'm going to try and referee. And they were like, "Oh, Beck, I don't think that's for you. You're a bit shy. You're a bit of an introvert. It's generally people that are a bit outgoing." And I was a bit taken aback by that, and yeah, I can just remember standing in my room. I've got the number, the dude I was meant to call to get in on a course, and I thought, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to show them that I can do this. And yeah, the rest is history. Did a course over 2 days over the weekend, and then did a field test at Rochedale Rovers, which I'll never forget. Yeah, and that was quite a learning experience. I remember my first game as an assistant referee and flagging the ball out for the ball went out of play on the other side of the field, and trying to come off the game, and the NC was like, "What are you doing?" But I don't know.
So you had an eagle eye all the way back then. You could see the ball out of play on the other side of the field. You're destined for greatness.
Yeah.
And you were saying, Beck, that you played as well. So played before taking up the whistle?
Yeah. I just played as a junior up until I was 16. Yeah.
What was your position did you play, Beck? Yeah.
Sometimes I got stuck in goals because no one else wanted to be the goalkeeper, which was terrible because I was short. It's the worst decision ever. And then just as a midfielder.
Yeah, nice one. It's like we hear it all the time that like referees, they've never played the game before, but it's a pretty important part of refereeing. We spent a bit of time last week talking about football understanding. Like it does make a big difference having played the game and then being able to understand it and then to officiate it, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, nice.
Was there a time then, so obviously you got started and you thought, actually, no, this isn't too bad. I've now learned a little bit that I don't have to flag the ball out on the other side of the pitch. And you would have had your moments in the middle early on. And you probably, apart from the cash in hand, how good was that, by the way? You got some experience in the middle, and there might have been some coaches or something that came around and had a look at you. When was the moment that you realised, or talk us through the moment that you realised, you know what, maybe I can actually take this to the next level. There's something just beyond what I'm doing right now. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I do. It was still my first year, and I was at an under 12 girls tournament, and it was at Wynnum. And they said there was a special guest coming to do the final. And I was lucky enough to run the line, and in walks Christina Zokolai.
Oh, yeah.
First time I'd met her. Alan Kibler was there, and he was like, yeah, she's just come back from the Olympics. And I was just wowed by Chris. She's the nicest person. She is the nicest person I've ever met. Just seeing her pull out a referee's uniform and putting on that badge, I was like, oh, what is this badge? Like, what does this even mean? And it was from that moment, I was like, I just want to be like her. Yeah, she was just so inspiring. And it was from that moment, I was like, that's what I want. Yeah.
So that's when the seed was planted then, hey?
Yeah.
I remember thinking too, when they said, oh, you can be a FIFA referee, I was like, I didn't even know what that was when I first started. So, maybe that was your moment there too. And it's almost now, especially as a female, when you see you can't be what you can't see, and here's someone who's literally just come back from the Olympic Games, sticking this other bit of stuff on their left breast pocket, and and so that's where the path. Did you pick her brains at the time?
Not really.
Still really shy.
Yeah, I was still a bit shy back then.
Yeah. We obviously then took that career path onwards, so that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, Beck, and I'm with you with Chris, who is a pretty special person and was an excellent referee and had a great career after refereeing too in assessing and instructing. Talking about mentors and role models, we were pretty blessed in Brisbane over many years, but who were your main mentors or role models, particularly as you were coming through the junior and senior ranks in Brisbane?
Yep. Well, the biggest one was Ted Carney, the coach. He did everything. But also I think the training. So every time you'd turn up to training, everyone was there. You had all your FIFA and your National League referees. So just mixing with them. And then if you ever had a question, you could just approach anyone. But I'd have to say, like, the main mentors for me through my career would be Ted Carney and also Chris Zokolai. Chris has so many teachings along the way that have just stuck with me, not even with refereeing, but also through my work life as well. like everything's just been so changeable, and I think it's just also just made me a better person as well.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Sorry, Greenie, I was just going to say, just for the people listening at home, what is it that you do outside of football that you've taken those football lessons with you? What's that? What do you do for
policing background?
Yep. So what types of skills that you got out of refereeing that helped in that space?
It's weird, right? Because like I said, I feel like I'm the ultimate introvert. I can be very reserved. But when it comes to work and refereeing, I put these different hats on. But I'd say refereeing helped me in joining the police. It gave me that confidence and, the skills from refereeing and being a leader out in the field, the communication, and also that mental toughness.
Yep.
And I think then becoming a police officer, that's just then enhanced my refereeing in terms of man management, player management. Because, as a police officer, you're always mingling with the members of the public, always talking to them. So that communication side has definitely helped me with refereeing as well.
A bit like refereeing. Sorry, Granny.
Sorry, Benny. Just to touch on something you just mentioned earlier about training, and obviously, Beathy and I experienced what you were talking about with people being at training and mixing with FIFA referees, and I certainly remember that when I was coming through, and that was one of the most exciting parts. Was like a Mark Shield asking me how my game went on the weekend. Can you maybe just describe to people who might not have experienced that, what that was like for you a little bit more, and how that might have helped you, with your development as you were sort of coming through those early stages of your career?
Yeah. So you'd turn up to training and there'd be like 50 to 60 people, and it was a range from your grassroots all the way up to the elite level, and also the weekend warriors that you need. Just being able to mingle with those guys because their professionalism and their work ethic rubs off on you. That good character, good behavior stuff is contagious. And then having someone of that elite level just as you say, come up and ask you about your game, it's invaluable, right? Because it's like, oh wow, someone cares. But also being able to learn from that person, because you might not have a great game and they go, oh, I've been there. They can share their experience. And so, it doesn't matter how terrible the games went, just learning from their experience, that, the sun is going to rise again the next day. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Greenie touched on your attitude and your approach, Beck. And one thing that I was always super impressed by was the attitude that you brought to training. And then that obviously naturally transitioned into your games, because honestly, from my memories of the training sessions in Brisbane, you were one of the most hardworking, persistent, determined athletes that we had going around, to the point where you were finishing sessions after some of us had left and were doing some cool down work. You were persistent to make sure that everything was done and done well. And that's, like I said, transferred into your games. That kind of work that you put in off the field is so important for the stuff you do on the field, right? And it sounds like those behaviors were in place from a pretty early age.
Yeah, definitely ingrained when you've got someone there yelling at you to keep going. But it's funny though, because you remember those sessions. Some of them were just awful. But it wasn't until you're overseas and you're operating in 30-degree heat, you're like, oh no, thank you for punishing me, because you can now survive the elements of Asia.
Yep, which can be extreme. Hey.
Yeah.
100%.
That probably leads us nicely, Beck. We're kind of coming through your career, and initially the start, and then learning from others and building you, both as a person and a referee, which is awesome. We create so many memories. What can you remember? What's been the most memorable match for you, and why?
Yep. I'd have to say 2022. It was a Southeast Asian Games tournament, just a mini tournament with, the Southeastern Asian countries like Thailand, Vietnam. and it was in Vietnam. And I was lucky enough to be involved in a semi-final and then a finals, a fourth official. And Vietnam were in those games, so I was lucky enough to get Vietnam in the semi-final. The locals said the stadium capacity was around 18,000, but they reckon they squeezed in about 20,000. And the atmosphere was just electric. And at that time, generally when you have tournaments in Asia with women, you don't get much of a crowd for whatever reason. So this was just, unbelievable, like to the point where you couldn't even hear the comms properly. Anytime there was an attack, just the roar of the crowd. Yeah, it was just so electric. And I thought, man, this is my last game ever. Like, this is just an amazing one to finish on.
That's awesome.
And you found you kind of got into the zone in that space? Did you feel on with all of that buzz and everything?
Yeah. Just that adrenaline. The adrenaline rush. And then, it's like things are moving to the penalty area and the crowd's roaring, and it just sort of amps you to that next level. Yeah.
I like what you did there with next level too. That's fantastic. The checks in the mail. Now, obviously, we go through so many highs and lows in refereeing, and that's obviously a high. And it's great to see that smile on your face as you told that story. Without going into the details of the match, can you think of a time in your career where there was a bit of controversy, rightly or wrongly, and kind of how did you deal with that?
Yes, one does come to mind. Bit of a sore point. It's just a game where I decided to take a different course of action, and it didn't really work out for me at the end. So as a result of it, at this tournament, I didn't get another game. So it was a bit soul crushing. How to manage it? I can be really sort of like an emotional person. So when we spoke about mentors and people that have influenced us, I've definitely created like a support group around myself to help, because otherwise, when you're left to your own devices and you start thinking about stuff, like you can spiral, and you do need that outside perspective that people can bring.
Did you find that you were going into that spiral? Because obviously when we're away, we can't take our support network with us. So did you find yourself going into that spiral, and I guess how did you get yourself out?
So definitely spiraling. Just making contact with my support network. So I'm lucky. Like I said, I've mentioned Ted Carney before, but he's always been available for when I just need to talk things through. So he's a very good soundboard, talk through the decision. How
does that convo go? So we're going to have lots of people listening, either live or watching this on repeat. But where do you start? Obviously, it sounds like you've got an amazing trust with Ted and the rest of your support network. How does that first come? Is it a phone call? Do you pick it up? What kind of questions are you asking?
It'll be a message, and then it will get to the point where I just need to rant. So it'll be a phone call, and I just rant. I just get all the emotion out, just get it all out. And then once that emotion's all settled and more in a, that logical space, then we'll talk through the incident, what differences we could have done. And it's essentially what he's very good at is, at the end of the phone call, it's not as bad as I thought it is. Like he's talked me off the bridge, and I walk away.
Metaphorically.
Yes. Generally I'll walk away from those convos going, okay, it's not that bad. It's a learning point. And that's the most important thing, is that it's happened, bookmark it, learn from it, and then just move on. And that if I do get another opportunity in the future, and if something similar happens, that I nail it, because I've got that learning experience behind me.
That's awesome, Beck, and that's such a mature approach to handling setbacks. And I think in the future we've got a whole session dedicated to that. So you touch on a really important topic that I'd love to dive more into, but we'll keep firing some questions at you if that's all right. We've spoken about like the career and some of the highs and the lows, and then handling stuff that doesn't go so well. If we bring it to the front end, like how are you preparing for a match? And does that change from a grassroots game where you might be in preseason, back doing some games in Brizzy, to a game on the A-League Women's or a game overseas? What does your prep look like?
Yep. Well, as like you guys touched on before, that professionalism and work ethic, just make sure that's the same always, regardless of the level. Doesn't matter what level it is, because you never know who's watching.
Mm-hmm.
Preparation, the best advice that Chris ever gave me was, regardless of the game, it's always team A and team B. You know, don't let the occasion change it. Just keep it simple. It's team A and team B.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing, generally just do something to take my mind off things in the lead up. So whether it's, I'm a bit of a gamer, so I like to game. So it's a bit of a distraction. But I also review the teams. That's important. So looking at the teams, like your key players, your troublemakers, reviewing any, like if it's available, any sort of matches involving the two teams. And then also for me, I tend to think about incidents that could happen in the game. So I always think about like worst case scenarios and what's my response going to be.
And
so
you like visualizing that?
Yeah, but it's not anything formal. It's not like setting time apart and just sitting there and visualizing. It's just thinking about stuff like oh, if A happens, okay, I can do C and D. That sort of stuff. Yeah. And then also just talking with the team as well, depending on whether it's ALW or international. If you've got that opportunity to speak to your team prior to the match as well, just chatting to them, seeing what their thoughts are, and just everyone getting on the same page. But yeah, it's just mostly just keep things simple. Make sure you keep the same process going into it, keeping your same pre-match stuff, just keeping it similar. But also being flexible, because I've had international stuff where we've rocked up 30 minutes before kickoff just because of the traffic. So they're just flexible. But just keep things as simple as possible, and just don't overthink it.
Yeah,
Love that.
awesome.
Love that a lot.
Yeah, have you Beck? Have you noticed the game change at all from when you first got into it? In those early days, and you're refereeing often at a high level in men's football in Brizzy. I certainly remember you getting a number of big games. Have you noticed any changes in the way the game's played, and then how you've had to adapt, as a referee, for those changes?
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I was chatting to Ted about this the other day. I generally, like, my style is to have things on a knife edge. I tend to let a lot go, sometimes too much for my own good. And we're just talking about how, like, the modern game now is in that sort of mentality, is to let a lot more go. So in terms of changing a few things, and I'm quite fortunate with the coaching background that I've had, that I don't have to really change much with my mentality. But in terms of changes in the women's space, I definitely have noticed some changes. It's getting more professional, and the quality is improving. But it's just unfortunate here in Australia, with the quality improving, a lot of the players go overseas. They get snatched up quickly. Which is, I guess, a positive in that the development's good here, but we're just losing these quality players to the league. But no, it's been good just to see the professionalism, and then also, like I mentioned before, the crowd, like in Vietnam, having that massive crowd, like that's just unheard of. But now in Australia, if there's a Matildas match, like it's sold out, like it's just phenomenal.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's so good for. I was going to say it's so good for awesome. amazing games, and I mean that Matilda's Nigeria game up at Suncorp. Then I ran into Beatty there, and we were there with our kids as well, and not because we're football people, just our kids want to be there as well. So it's fantastic to see, and to have you out there in the middle of all that growth of women's football in this country. It's just absolutely amazing. So our hat goes off to you, Beck. So
yeah, you're spot on. My eldest still talks about that one.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Now, obviously, all these experiences we're talking about, Beck, money can't buy those. It's fantastic. So, thinking back to that young Beck starting out at grassroots level, with what you've learned, I guess what's been the best piece of advice that you've heard that you could feed back to anyone starting out, at the grassroots level?
Yeah. I've got two, if that's all right.
Oh, absolutely.
One is always be true to yourself. So just be you. And in the sense of, just be yourself. Don't try to be anyone else. And you also want to be like the person you see when you wake up in the morning, when you look in the mirror. And the other one, not from referee, it was in my workspace. I think it was like third year uni in law, working at a law firm, made a massive mistake. And I just remember the solicitor I was working for at the time, she just said, you know what, you're going to make mistakes to learn. Yeah. Otherwise you don't learn. And that's something that I've just carried with me all the way through. So that, when I do stuff up, I go, well, I've learned something. It's had to happen for me to learn, and hopefully I just don't do it again. Yeah.
That's great advice, Beck. Yeah. And hopefully
it really is. Yeah. And it's like I've done a lot of learning then. Can I say that? Yeah.
You've said it. It's there.
Yeah. Conscious of time, team, that we're just hitting the 30-minute mark. I know we had an image or two that we wanted to get Beck to talk us through, if that's all right. So we might jump into those couple of picks before Benny can wrap it up for us. So, Beck, I'm going to pop something on the screen here and just get you to talk us through what's going on. So it looks like you're cautioning someone that potentially is, I'm not sure if they're still alive or not.
I'm trying to think where that is.
It's on the ground.
Red player.
Wasn't in Vietnam, was it, by any chance? I don't know.
No, New Zealand. It was New Zealand.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was a lead-up game. It was New Zealand and Vietnam. Yes.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what happened, but I'm sure it was probably warranted. And
absolutely.
And then, do you think any truth to a rumour, Beathy, that this is the very reason why you got into paramedicine as well? Or
Just help where I can, mate.
That's
and
it.
then the next one, Greenie, our sleuth, came across this one.
Yeah, I was just interested to know what was happening here, Beck. Is this just an image of you practicing being a fourth official, given that there's no one else around?
Oh, wow. I think that might be in Thailand. Maybe for a championship.
Down at the local park or something?
We thought it might have been a Cusack in Brisbane and you were just like dedicated to your fourthy role.
Where do you guys find? Like, where did you find this?
We've got our sleuths. Don't worry about that.
Greenie, did you drag that one from Queensland Boot Scooting Association, was it? Looks like you're just about to get into a bit of a line dance there, I reckon. So.
Very good.
And that's one of the many things, Beck, that we love about you. You know, I think in the game that we have, it's really important to be able to laugh at ourselves too, because we go through so many pressure situations, amazing memories, up highs and lows. So at the end of the day, there's always people like Greenie looking out to find things that try and embarrass us. So very well handled.
Sorry,
we could stay on here for hours and hours and hours. But we probably do have to give you a bit. You've been very kind and generous with your time, so we did want to, I guess, give that a wrap. And again, congratulate you for everything you've done on the pitch, and as we're hearing, everything you've done off the pitch. And again, thirdly, really thanks for being our first lamb to the slaughter, so to speak, as our guest speaker here on Next Level Ref. So we really appreciate you giving up your time to share your insights for everybody. even if no one else got anything out of it, I got a bunch out of it. So we really appreciate that, and the nods from the other two clowns here as well are backing that up. So we look forward to really seeing you kick on the field as well. Hopefully the viewers will be, oh yeah, I remember hearing from Beck. So we look forward to that domestically here in the A-League and the international career, and may you have many more amazing memories in the game. So thanks very much for joining us. And for everyone else, next week, and Beck's touched on it, is our fitness topic. So we actually, speaking of experts, we've got an expert in the field, not Strobro Dolofsky. He's not in the books tonight in preparation for next week, and he's not here to defend himself either. So we're looking at sharing that knowledge and using world standard experts in refereeing fitness and training. So I guess help you guys get the best out of your game, and ultimately help our wonderful game that we've heard so much about from Beck tonight. So look, on behalf of all of us here at Next Level Refs, thanks so much for your support so far and into the future. Tell your mates, get them along, engage with us online, live or through the week as we go. Thanks again for joining us. We look forward to catching up next week, and we can't wait to help you take your game to the next level. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, Beck. See you later, guys. Bye.
Thank you.
See ya. Thanks, Beck.